This is Duncan Holder on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Saints in the market for a wide receiver. We knew that was going to be the case anyway, given the free agent status of Brandon Coleman, and he has not signed anywhere. The restricted free agent status, well, Coleman was originally a restricted free agent. Saints did not tender him. Now he's unrestricted. Saints have tendered Willie Snead, and this is where I think this is going to get a little interesting as we move forward, because the Saints have signed Cameron Meredith, Bears wide receiver, restricted free agent, to an offer sheet. And Brother and Metairie asking how long are Saints fans going to have to sweat out until he actually can become a New Orleans Saint. The deadline is Wednesday. You get 5 days to match an offer. Meredith signed the sheet on Friday. You have till the end of business on Wednesday. And Meredith is a no compensation restricted free agent. So if the Saints sign him, the Bears don't match. They don't have to give up anything for him. No compensation. So, and I brought back some gloom and doom on Twitter on Friday, Jeff. You'll certainly appreciate this. I'm fairly certain this is correct. I have not done the research, but it sounds correct in my head. The last time the Saints landed a restricted free agent, 2007, Jason David.
Yes.
They gave up a 4th-round pick to the Colts for Jason David. Oh, boy. People love to hear about that. They love it.
That's not good. That was that was a big splash, too, at the time. The Cam Meredith situation, I think, is very interesting. I think the Saints have a great shot at potentially getting him, but they've got competition from the Ravens, who've also offered a deal, I believe.
But he turned that one down, and he signed the deal with the Saints.
Okay, so he can't go back and re-sign it?
Well, no, the fact he signed it, that's it.
He's locked in?
It's
okay.
locked in. This is in the Bears' court. It's basically he signed a contract, but another team can match.
Well, here's the deal. The Bears have already signed Allen Robinson in free agency, Taylor Gabriel in free agency, and they still have Kevin White on the roster. So they're kind of looking at, where does Cam Meredith fit in here? You're paying those other guys. They're going to be your top 3. Do you want to pay Cam Meredith to be your number 4 receiver coming off a major knee injury? The Saints obviously feel good about his medical evaluation. They would no way they would offer him that kind of money. He's coming off a torn ACL and an MCL, a partially torn MCL. So they obviously feel good about it, but there's definitely a risk there.
Well, they're not the only team that feels good about it, too, because he's visited 3 spots. The Ravens wanted to offer him a contract. I'm guessing that the Saints upped the ante a little bit. And let's be honest. Look, if you're the Saints, you're going 2 years, maxing out around $10 million. That's a pretty significant money that you're willing to dole out for him. Conversely, you have a no compensation restricted free agent tender offered to Willie Snead. Willie Snead has not signed that, and the last day for restricted free agents to sign tenders is April 20th. So, and on the also connected to the story, Willie Snead visited the Ravens. So they're in the market for a wide receiver, in the market for a restricted free agent. And say if Meredith signs this tender, well, he already signed it. Say if the Bears don't match it, the Saints could pull the offer from Willie Snead if they want to. And if Meredith and they get him, I wouldn't be stunned at all if the Saints just pulled that offer from Snead and let him walk.
It's a little, I think, interesting that the Bears decided to tender Cam Meredith so low, knowing that they wouldn't get any compensation for him. The low tender is $1.9 million. The middle tender is only $1 million more.
And they have plenty of cap room.
Right, $2.9 million. So instead of paying him 1 year, $2.9 million, and potentially getting a second-round pick in return if the Saints or the Ravens made an offer or any other team made an offer, they're now staring at basically $5 million a year, almost twice as much as what they were going to invest in Meredith, and they get nothing in return. So, I mean, I don't know what Ryan Pace, and were they saying basically they don't feel confident in his medical evaluation to give him that low tender? That's surprising to me.
That may be it. and yet they may have already known, okay, we're going to go get Allen Robinson. Okay, we're going to go get Taylor Gabriel. And if Cameron Meredith sticks around, okay, fine. If not, oh well. So most teams have a plan for this. And obviously, he was probably the third piece in the plan because I think Allen Robinson and Taylor Gabriel, they come in and Robinson's your one. You don't know what the heck you got in Kevin White. That's a bust of a pick,
he's a wild card
already. But Taylor Gabriel is certainly a viable 3. And the Falcons, what are they doing at wide receiver now? Gabriel's gone, so they've got a hole there. So the Bears felt confident there. But just to kind of give you the tidbits on Cameron Meredith, he was a 10-game starter in 2016. He played 14 games. He caught 66 passes for 888 yards, 4 touchdowns. So it's someone that even in an anemic Bears offense, Meredith was able to play well in 2016. But like you said, Jeff, tore up his knee, missed all of 2017. And I'm sure that you're going to have to move slowly with him, especially if you're making a 2-year investment in Meredith. And you could call it a 1-year investment because half of it is guaranteed, which meaning, all right, if you cut him the next year, you're not losing that much money. But the fact you're bumping it to 2 years is making a commitment to Meredith, and you're paying him that sort of money. I'm sure that's what attracted Meredith to the Saints, and probably that they're winning, and probably that it's with Drew Brees and not Joe Flacco.
And here's another factor that I think weighs into Meredith's decision. That is Curtis Johnson is the wide receivers coach, who is the Bears wide receivers coach in 2016 when Meredith had his breakout year. So he knows him well, and obviously is relaying an evaluation to the Saints that he wants this kid on board.
And I'm sure Curtis Johnson is saying the same thing, and we know Sean Payton trusts Curtis Johnson. His record of developing wide receivers speaks for itself.
I like the move. I think it's a very savvy move to get a guy that I think has a high upside. Now, it may blow up on him. We've seen them in the past go after these injured guys and take chances. Sometimes it works out. Often it doesn't. It didn't work out with Jarris Byrd. It didn't work out with C.J. Spiller. It didn't work out with James Laurinaitis. But the Saints, I think, feel like they have to address the receiver position, and Meredith has such a high potential upside that they're willing to take the risk. And we know that Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton, if there's one thing I'll say about them, they're aggressive. They're not afraid to take risks. They took the biggest risk of all on Drew Brees, and look how that's paid off.
Yeah, Meredith is 6'3", 201 pounds. He'll turn 26 in September, so he's undrafted coming out of Illinois State in 2015. And so, look, he's one of those under-the-radar receivers that's kind of developed, and now you're going to be able to get a chance and see what he can bring. But, yeah, it's a heads up on when he tore his ACL. He was placed on injured reserve on September 2nd, so this was right before the 2017 season. And so he injured his knee in the 3rd preseason game against Tennessee. So by the time you get to preseason, he'd be a year removed from that injury. And the marvels of modern science, you can recover from that in that pace, be ready to go. But the Saints are going to certainly be careful. They're going to have to be careful. And they're going to have to trust their medical staff.
New medical staff.
Well, yes.
Pretty much. But to answer your original question, brother, the Bears have until Wednesday to match the Saints' offer. Or Meredith becomes a Saint. So Wednesday, I'm not exactly sure if it's end of day Wednesday.
I assume it's end of business Wednesday.
I assume it is too. So we should hear something fairly soon here. And I think it's an intriguing move by the Saints. I like Meredith. I just don't know. That's a serious injury when you have a torn ACL and a partially torn MCL. It's hard to come back from those lots of times, especially at that position where you're requiring speed. But he was not a speed guy to begin with. He's a former high school quarterback who changed positions in college, like we see a lot of times players do. And that's why he largely went undrafted at Illinois State. So he's a guy that could be getting better because he's still learning the craft.
And I'm still wondering where the Saints go at wide receiver, because you take him and then you got 1, 2, 3. But still, you could certainly use a fourth receiver. I still don't see a fourth receiver on that roster right now because Snead's not technically under contract. Coleman's a free agent. I don't think Tommy Lee Lewis is a fourth receiver. Someone maybe like Trayvon Doral could get a shot. But, look, alluding to your mock draft, you still have them going receiver. Who do you have? DJ Moore from Maryland in your mock today?
Like him a lot. And just at 27, I don't think the board marries up very well with the Saints' needs. There's a lot of offensive linemen graded around that area because you have so many quarterbacks going to go in the first round. They don't need a quarterback, obviously, I don't think. Running back, that's a position they don't need. Safety, they don't need. So it really limits who you would take. Yes, you want to take the best player available, but you ideally want to marry it to a need. I think the best fit at 27 is a wide receiver. Christian Kirk is also slotted in around there. What's his name? Cortland Sutton or
I think they'd stay away from Sutton just because he's more of a Meredith build, more of a Michael Thomas build. I would think the Kirk fit would be better. He could return kicks. I could tell you my last mock, I certainly pondered him. I got a mock coming out on Wednesday. I'm certainly going to ponder that as well. So, all right, hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. We have yet to talk about the Masters. Patrick Reed went to U-High in Baton Rouge. He now holds a green jacket, holding off Jordan Spieth and Ricky Fowler. And how does all this connect to the Zurich Classic? Do they have some changes, some fun changes on the way? We'll talk about that as well. So come on back. Hour number 2 is next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. And don't forget, we'll be giving away Pelicans tickets in hour number 2 if you remember that key word. So we'll make the call. You make the call. So come on back. Duncan Holder.